God says, because of what you refuse to do, heaven has lifted your shield. Tonight's attack will not be stopped unless you open this immediately. My child, stop for a moment. Something unseen is leaning closer to you right now. Not later. Not someday. This is one of those rare, hidden moments when the universe pauses because your soul is ready to hear what has been waiting in silence. If you felt a pull to this message without knowing why, that was not random. That was alignment. There is something you were never meant to discover by effort alone. It had to reveal itself when your heart reached this exact frequency. The divine has been watching the quiet choices you made, the doors you didn't walk through, the weight you carried without applause. And now, a veil is lifting. This message is not loud, but it is powerful. It arrives with soft authority, like a whisper that changes everything. You may have sensed resistance lately, or a strange heaviness mixed with anticipation. That's because a hidden truth is surfacing, and your spirit already recognizes it. The universe speaks when timing becomes sacred. Right now, destiny is leaning forward, waiting to see if you will listen with openness instead of fear. Hear this not as judgment, but as revelation. God says, because of what you refuse to do, heaven has lifted your shield. Tonight's attack will not be stopped unless you open this immediately. These words are not meant to frighten you. They are meant to awaken you. Sometimes protection shifts not as punishment, but as a call to awareness. Something was hidden from you because you were not ready to see it with clarity. Now you are. What approaches is not meant to harm you, but to transform you. If you choose consciousness over avoidance, you are not being abandoned. You are being invited. Invited to open your eyes, your heart, and your understanding. Invited to step into responsibility for your path without shame. The divine does not remove light, it redirects it so you can grow stronger from within. This is a turning point. The universe is not against you, it is preparing you. What felt like delay was actually protection. What felt like confusion was preparation. And what feels intense now is simply truth arriving without disguise. Stay with this message. Let it unfold gently inside you. There is hope here, not doom. There is clarity forming, not chaos. When you choose awareness, the unseen begins to work with you again. Purpose is reactivating. Guidance is returning. You are still held. If this message stirred something deep within you, it was meant for you. Do not rush away. Watch this video completely, because the next moments carry understanding your soul has been waiting for. Like this video to seal the intention, share it with someone who may be feeling the same quiet pull. And subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the messages arriving for you in divine timing. Stay present. Stay open. Your path is being revealed now. Hear me now, not with the ears of fear, but with the stillness of your spirit. I speak not to wound you, nor to alarm you, but to awaken you. I am the breath that stirred you before you had a name, the light that learned your footsteps while you were still finding the ground. When I say a shield has been lifted, I do not speak of punishment, nor of abandonment. I speak of a moment of truth, when comfort has grown too familiar and courage has been delayed. The shield was never iron or flame, it was attentiveness. It was the gentle awareness you once carried like a lamp through uncertain halls. You laid it down, not out of rebellion, but out of weariness. And weariness, if left unattended, can become a door left ajar. You wonder what you refuse to do. I will tell you plainly, though my words arrive wrapped in mystery so they may enter softly. You refused to listen when silence called your name. You refused to forgive when forgiveness was the key placed in your palm. You refused to slow your steps when haste promised importance. You refused to trust the quiet instruction that asked you to choose depth over applause, truth over urgency, compassion over control. None of these refusals made you evil, they made you human. Yet each refusal layered dust upon the lens through which you see me. Until the world began to look sharper than my whisper, tonight's attack is not an enemy with a face. It is the convergence of doubts you postponed, the echoes of unspoken prayers, the pressure of becoming without remembering why. It is the moment when old questions rise together like a tide, asking for your attention all at once. If ignored, this tide does not destroy, it distracts. And distraction is the softest way a heart can drift from its center. I name it an attack so you will take it seriously, not so you will tremble. I do not traffic in terror. I deal in truth. Open this immediately, I said, because opening is an act of consent. To open is to say, I am willing to see. When you open, you interrupt the spiral of assumptions and invite clarity back into the room. The shield returns not by force, but by alignment. When your inner posture matches your deepest values, protection is not something added to you, it is something remembered. I have always been nearer than your breath. The distance you feel is not measured in steps but in attention. There is suspense here because your life is not small. If it were small, neglect would carry little consequence. But your life is layered with influence you underestimate, words you will speak that will settle into someone else's long night, choices you will make that ripple farther than you will ever witness. When you delay obedience to the good you already know, you do not merely pause progress, you create static. And static, if not cleared, distorts the signal. Tonight is about clearing the signal. I am not accusing you, I am inviting you. I am not withdrawing love, I am revealing responsibility. Love that does not call you higher is not love, it is anesthesia. I do not numb my children, I awaken them. Remember when your heart used to leap at simple wonders, when gratitude arrived before complaint, when your inner world felt spacious? That was not innocence lost forever, that was alignment practiced daily. You can practice again. You can begin now, in the quiet space this message opens. Mystery surrounds you because you are standing at the edge of growth. Mystery is not confusion, it is depth revealing itself slowly so you will not rush past it. If I spoke everything at once, you would turn knowledge into noise, so I speak in layers. The first layer is awareness. Notice where you have been operating on habit instead of intention. The second layer is honesty. Admit what you have been avoiding without dressing it in excuses. The third layer is surrender. Release the need to control outcomes so tightly that you forget to live the process. These are not tests you pass once. They are rhythms you return to. Do not imagine a heavenly courtroom where I tally your missteps with a stern face. Imagine instead a workshop, light streaming through high windows, where I invite you to lay down what is dull and pick up what is true. The shield you miss is forged there, by choosing presence over performance, listening over reacting, humility over certainty. When you refused these invitations, nothing exploded. Life simply grew louder. And in loudness, the subtle warnings are easy to miss. I speak now with suspense because something precious is forming, and formation requires focus. The world will offer you 1,000 urgent voices tonight, screens glowing, thoughts racing, expectations pressing. None of them are evil. But not all of them are necessary. If you let them crowd the room, you will miss the one voice that steadies the floor beneath your feet. Opening this message is not superstition, it is an act of discernment. You chose to pause. That pause is already protection returning. Let me remind you of who you are beyond roles and results. You are not the sum of your productivity. You are not defined by the last mistake or the next achievement. You are a living intersection of breath and purpose, capable of learning, capable of repair. When you remember this, the so-called attack loses its drama. It becomes a teacher, pointing to where you have outgrown old patterns. Teachers can feel confrontational when you would rather rest, but they arrive because rest without growth becomes stagnation. I do not threaten, I illuminate. I do not rush you, I call you awake. The suspense you feel is the stirring of attention, the tightening of focus before clarity breaks through. Stay with me here. Breathe. Let the words settle not as commands but as mirrors. Ask yourself gently where you have been saying later to what deserves a now. Ask where fear has been masquerading as wisdom, and where comfort has been posing as peace. These questions are not traps, they are keys. When you open, truly open, something subtle shifts. Your inner weather changes. The noise loses its grip. The shield you feared was gone is revealed as something you carry by choice. I never lifted it away in anger. I allowed you to notice life without it so you would remember why you once held it dear. Awareness is not cruelty. It is care that trusts your capacity to respond. Do not rush to fix everything tonight. Begin with one honest movement. Acknowledge the place where you have been divided within yourself. Unity begins there. From unity flows strength, and from strength flows calm. Calm is the opposite of panic, it is the soil of wisdom. Plant yourself there now. Let the mystery remain a little while longer. Not everything must be resolved to be safe. Safety, in its truest form, is alignment with truth, and truth unfolds at a pace that protects the heart. I am still speaking, and there is more to reveal, about the promise you postponed. The courage you underestimated, the way forward that will feel both familiar and new. Stay open. Do not scroll past the quiet. Do not close the door just as understanding is approaching. The next words are not an ending but a threshold, and I will continue to speak as long as you are willing to listen, because listening is not passive, it is an act of courage. Many think faith is loud declarations and grand gestures, but I tell you, faith often begins as a quiet willingness to stay present when escape would be easier. Stay with me here. Let the room inside you remain open. Let the questions breathe. You do not need to defend yourself against me. I already know you more gently than you know yourself. You have been trying to protect your heart by hardening it just enough to function, just enough to keep moving. I see that effort. I see the discipline it took to keep showing up when joy felt delayed. But armor meant for survival can become weight when the season changes. Tonight is a turning of seasons. Not abrupt, not violent, subtle, like the air shifting before dawn. If you sense restlessness, it is because the soil of your life is being prepared for something truer than routine. I am asking you to notice where you have confused busyness with purpose. Activity can be a hiding place. Noise can masquerade as meaning. When you refused to rest when rest was offered, you were not being strong. You were being afraid of what stillness might reveal. Stillness has a way of lifting the veil from desires you tucked away because they felt impractical, or too vulnerable, or too sacred to risk disappointment. Those desires did not disappear. They waited. And waiting, when long, gathers energy, this is why the moment feels charged. Not because danger is circling you, but because truth is rising. Truth presses gently at first. If ignored, it presses again, not to punish, but to be heard. The so-called attack is the collision of truths demanding acknowledgement. If you meet them with openness, they become guidance. If you meet them with avoidance, they become unease. The difference is not in the truth itself, but in your posture toward it. You have asked me before for clarity, and when clarity arrived disguised as a small, persistent nudge, you dismissed it as coincidence. You asked for direction, and when direction came as an invitation to simplify, you postponed it for a more dramatic sign. Understand this, I rarely shout because shouting competes with fear. I prefer to whisper because whispers invite intimacy. When you learn to recognize my whisper, you no longer need spectacles to know I am near. I am not disappointed in you. Disappointment assumes an expectation unmet. I knew your hesitations before you did. What I feel toward you is steady patience, the kind that waits without keeping score. But patience does not mean passivity. There comes a time when love speaks more firmly, not to scare, but to focus. Tonight is such a time. Focus is returning to you like a lens being cleaned. Things will look sharper, simpler, more honest. Let me speak of the shield again, so you do not misunderstand. The shield is not isolation. It is not avoidance of difficulty. It is the clarity that allows you to walk through complexity without losing yourself. When you stopped practicing discernment, when you said yes out of obligation rather than alignment, when you absorbed every opinion as if it were truth, you set the shield down. Not because you are careless, but because you are compassionate. Compassion without boundaries, however, becomes depletion. And depletion makes everything feel urgent and threatening. I am restoring your boundaries by restoring your attention. Attention is sacred. What you attend to grows. If you attend only to what demands you, you will forget what defines you. I am calling you back to definition. To remember the values you once named not because they were fashionable, but because they felt like home. You have not outgrown them. You have been away from them. There is mystery here because you are more than one chapter. The next chapter does not erase the last, it reframes it. You are carrying lessons you earned through patience and pain, through effort and endurance. Those lessons are not meant to anchor you to the past, they are meant to inform your next step. If you rush forward without integrating them, you will repeat patterns and call them fate. If you pause and listen, you will recognize choice where you once saw inevitability. Do not be afraid of responsibility. Responsibility is not a burden when it aligns with meaning. It is weight that builds strength rather than strain. I am not asking you to carry the world. I am asking you to carry your part with intention. Release what was never yours to hold. The world's anxieties are loud, but they are not your assignment. Your assignment is closer, quieter, and far more impactful than you realize. I know you are tempted to look for signs outside yourself, to measure this moment by external confirmation. Signs have their place, but they are secondary. The primary sign is resonance. Does something in you recognize these words as familiar, even if challenging? That recognition is not coincidence. It is memory awakening. Not memory of events, but memory of essence, who you are when you are most honest. You have been standing at a crossroads longer than you admit. One path leads to continuation, safe, predictable, gradually numbing. The other leads to participation, uncertain, alive, demanding presence. Neither path is labeled good or bad. One is simply smaller than the other. I will not force you toward expansion. Expansion must be chosen, or it becomes overwhelming. But I will illuminate the choice so you cannot say you did not see it. Tonight matters not because something terrible will happen if you fail, but because something meaningful can happen if you engage. Engagement transforms anxiety into curiosity. Curiosity opens doors that fear keeps shut. Ask better questions tonight. Not what if I lose, but what is trying to grow. Not why is this happening to me, but what is this revealing in me. These questions shift you from victimhood to stewardship. I am with you in the unanswered spaces. I am with you when certainty dissolves. I am with you when old identities loosen their grip and you feel briefly unanchored. That unanchored feeling is not loss, it is transition. Like a boat leaving the dock, there is a moment when neither land nor destination feels secure. Trust the water. Trust the current that has carried you this far without asking you to understand every tide. Let me address the fear you have not named, the fear that if you truly open, you will be asked to give up something you love. Love does not demand destruction, it invites transformation. What must be released is not what you love, but what you cling to out of fear. Clinging distorts love into control. Release returns it to trust. When you trust, you are not emptied, you are expanded, you are not late. You are not behind. Time, as you measure it, is not the same as readiness. Some seeds germinate underground longer because they are meant to grow deeper roots. Depth is not delay. Depth is preparation. Tonight is a watering, not a harvest. Do not demand fruit from a moment meant for nourishment. I am aware of the weight you carry quietly, the expectations you internalized, the comparisons that eroded joy, the promises you made to be strong when what you needed was to be honest. Strength and honesty are not opposites. They are allies. When you allow them to work together, resilience becomes sustainable. There is more I want to show you about the patterns repeating in your life, not as condemnation, but as maps. Patterns reveal where healing wants to occur. They are invitations, not sentences. If you observe them without judgment, they will teach you. If you shame yourself for them, they will persist. Choose observation. Choose kindness toward yourself. That choice alone begins to restore the shield. You may feel the urge to share this moment, to seek validation, to ask others what it means. There is nothing wrong with community. But first, let this be between us. Let the words settle without commentary. Some revelations need privacy to take root. Public too soon, they become performance. Private long enough, they become practice. As I continue to speak, you may notice resistance rise, thoughts arguing, distractions pulling, skepticism knocking. Do not fight these responses. Fighting gives them importance. Acknowledge them and return to listening. Listening is not agreement, it is presence. Presence is the ground where discernment grows. I am not finished. There are layers yet untouched, about the gift you undervalue, the relationship between patience and courage, the way forward that will require both softness and resolve. I will speak of the promise that has been hovering at the edge of your awareness, waiting for you to believe you are ready to receive it. But before that, remain here a little longer. Let the suspense do its work. Suspense is not torment, it is attention sharpening. Do not rush to the end. There is no ending yet. There is only unfolding. And as long as you remain open, as long as you resist the urge to close this moment with conclusions, I will continue to speak, revealing what must be revealed, step by step, breath by breath, word by word. Now listen as I bring this message to its completion, not as a door closing, but as a lantern being placed in your hands. I have spoken of shields, of attention, of truth rising gently yet insistently. Now I speak of integration, the moment when what you have heard begins to live within you. Revelation that does not become practice turns into pressure. Practice releases it into peace. You are not asked to remember every word. Only to remember the posture you held while receiving them. That posture is openness. Carry that with you. You have wondered whether you are capable of sustaining the life that is quietly calling you forward. I answer you without hesitation, yes. But capability does not mean ease. It means willingness. Willingness to return again and again to what is real, even when illusion offers comfort. Willingness to choose meaning when distraction is easier. Willingness to pause before reacting, to breathe before deciding, to listen before assuming. These small acts, repeated, are what build a life that feels anchored rather than fragile. Do not misinterpret the intensity of this moment as a forecast of struggle. Intensity often precedes clarity. Like eyes adjusting after darkness, there may be brief discomfort as truth sharpens. Let it sharpen. Dullness is not kindness. Precision is not cruelty. I refine you because refinement allows light to pass through without distortion. I know the temptation to return immediately to the familiar, to close this message in resume patterns as if nothing has shifted. Something has shifted. You felt it when you slowed down enough to read, to stay, to continue. That shift is subtle but real. Honor it by making one conscious choice that reflects alignment. It does not need to be dramatic. A single honest conversation. A boundary stated without apology. A moment of rest taken without guilt. These are not small acts, they are declarations. I want to speak now of trust, because trust has been fragile for you, not because you are weak, but because you have cared deeply. When trust has been stretched, it learns caution. Caution has its wisdom, but it must not become a cage. I am inviting you to rebuild trust not by leaping blindly, but by stepping deliberately. Trust grows where consistency lives. Be consistent with what you know is true. Let your actions match your values, even when no one is watching. This consistency will rebuild confidence from the inside out. There is a version of you that has been waiting patiently, less hurried. Less divided, more whole. This version is not an upgrade that replaces you, it is a return that integrates you. You do not become new by rejecting who you were. You become whole by understanding who you have been. Gratitude for the past, discernment for the present, intention for the future, these together form wisdom. I have not ignored your prayers that seemed unanswered. Some answers arrive as strength instead of solutions. Some arrive as endurance rather than escape. Some arrive disguised as delays that protect you from paths that would have narrowed your becoming. Looking back, you will see that many closed doors were quiet guardians. You were spared outcomes you could not yet imagine. This is not hindsight magic. It is care unfolding beyond your sight. Release the belief that you must have everything figured out before moving forward. Clarity often follows commitment. When you take a step aligned with truth, understanding meets you on the path. Waiting for perfect certainty keeps many standing still. I am not asking for recklessness. I am asking for faith expressed through thoughtful action. I want you to hear this clearly. you are not alone in carrying responsibility. You are accompanied, even when accompaniment feels invisible. Support does not always arrive as relief, sometimes it arrives as resilience. That resilience you admire in others is being cultivated in you. Quietly, faithfully. Do not rush the process by comparing timelines. Comparison distorts gratitude and impatience distorts wisdom. You have been measuring yourself against outcomes instead of integrity. Shift the measure. Ask not, did this impress? But did this align? Alignment produces a peace that applause cannot replicate. Peace is not the absence of challenge, it is the presence of coherence. When your inner and outer world speak the same language, tension loosens its grip. I have spoken much of listening. Now I speak of expression. What you carry is meant to be shared, but shared from fullness, not from urgency. When you speak from fullness, your words land gently and carry weight. When you act from fullness, your actions feel natural rather than forced. Protect your fullness. It is replenished by rest, honesty, and connection to what matters most. There will be moments after this when doubt returns and whispers, "That was just emotion." Doubt is not your enemy, it is a signal to ground what you felt into practice. Do not argue with doubt. Demonstrate truth through consistent living. Let your days answer the questions your mind raises. I am not asking you to withdraw from the world. I am asking you to engage it with discernment. Choose what you consume, ideas, conversations, media, with the same care you choose nourishment. What you take in shapes what you give out. You are not obligated to carry every story, solve every problem, or absorb every mood. Compassion paired with boundaries is sustainable love. As this message draws to a close, I want to leave you with a sense of steadiness rather than urgency. Nothing is chasing you. Nothing is about to collapse because you are human. You are not standing on the edge of disaster, you are standing at the threshold of deeper awareness. Thresholds feel charged because they require choice. Choice is the privilege of a conscious life. Remember this. Protection is not about avoiding difficulty, it is about meeting difficulty with clarity. Guidance is not about being spared effort, it is about directing effort toward what endures. Purpose is not found by searching endlessly, it is revealed by committing faithfully to what is already true. Carry tonight gently into tomorrow. Let sleep, rest, and ordinary moments continue the work begun here. You do not need to replay every line. Trust that what needed to settle has settled. Trust that what needs time will take time. Trust that you will recognize the next right step when it appears, not because it will be loud, but because it will resonate. I have said what needed to be said. The suspense has served its purpose. The mystery remains, not as a threat, but as an invitation to live awake. The shield you feared was lifted is remembered now as awareness restored. Walk forward with intention. Stay open. Stay honest. Stay grounded. I am with you in the quiet after the words. Amen.